Hello, welcome to Cricket Commentaries. As always, I'm your host, Jake Demastro, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Keaton Byer. Hello, Keaton.
Hello, how's it going?
Not too bad. So today we're covering a movie called Jack Black Commits Identity Fraud and Kidnapping.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens in this movie. It's kidnapping, fraud. It's really adult themes in this film.
There's a lot of shit that goes down. Like if this movie actually happened, like Dewey Finn would be in jail for a really long time.
Oh yeah. We're doing so if you haven't realized from what we're talking about so far, from the outline that we've given, is we're talking about School of Rock today. And it's a fantastic film where Jack Black, yes, kidnaps a bunch of children and commits.
And then later they kidnap him.
Yeah, and eventually I think he's still the.
Is he the kidnapper if they show up at his house?
Yeah,
and bring him into.
Yeah, but he still left the house and then got into a bus with them and then took the bus somewhere. So
Yeah, but okay. Well, the bus driver was already driving there.
Well, that's the thing. I think the bus driver was.
The bus driver's definitely a party to this.
Yeah. The bus driver should have figured out what was going on. Yeah, I've always thought that the bus driver was a little bit. I mean, what's her name talked him into it? Summer talked him into it.
Oh yeah. You can't argue with Summer.
Yeah, she's hard to argue with.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're getting way out of our element here. We're talking about School of Rock, as I said. So, excellent film. We have a lot to cover in this probably 2 episodes. I don't know why I said probably.
It's definitely 2 episodes, considering that we wrote it as 2 episodes.
Yeah, as if it would turn into 3 somehow.
Oh no, I don't think we have enough for that.
Yeah, imagine we did 3 episodes of the only 2 films we've done 3 episodes for our
School of Rock and
Berlin. Anyway, so for this episode, what we're gonna do is obviously the 5-minute summary, and then just kind of the basic stuff that I thought we do. I think we've mentioned Jack Black in the past.
Have we actually ever?
Yeah, very. Fuck me. Like, what episode is? I don't know. Maybe. I seem to recall his name.
Are we in the 80s
up.
now?
Yeah.
Episodes? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's been a while. I don't know if we have or if we haven't, to be honest.
Yeah. I feel like we have, but I don't know. Even if we have, it's been an extreme passing because we haven't really done any of his movies. But yeah. So we'll talk about him just a little bit. Like, we want to go in depth because it's not about him, it's about this movie, but this movie is about him committing fraud, so in a way it is about him. So let's start with the 5-minute summary, shall we?
Oh god, right into it. All right, I think this will be an easy one. Let me know when you're ready to start counting here.
Yeah, let me just get my my timer going. All right, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
So Jack Black plays Dewey Finn, who is kind of like a failed rock star, essentially. And he is playing a show at the beginning, and he is going way too hard, and he does a stage dive and passes out. And we find out that Dewey Finn has basically been mooching off his roommate and doesn't pay the rent. And his roommate's girlfriend is like, hey, maybe you should make him pay the rent. And then
reasonable.
And then he gets kicked out of his band because they all hate him because he goes too hard.
Because he's constantly shredding.
And his roommate is a teacher. I guess that'll become important very soon. Because anyway, his roommate's like, okay, man, if you can't pay the rent, man, I gotta kick you out because like my girlfriend's making me do that. And then so he's like, how am I gonna get the money because I got kicked out of my band, I can't win Battle of the Bands. And then he happens to intercept a call for his roommate, who is, as I said, a teacher, specifically a substitute teacher, looking for him to go substitute at a prep school. And Dewey is like, prime time to commit identity fraud. And then he's like, I am Mr. Ned Schneebly. I will go temp or be a substitute teacher at this prep school. So he goes to this prep school and he meets all these kids. And he's like, I'm just going to fucking slack off because I don't know how to fucking teach. And I'm hungover because I was drunk yesterday. And then, what was I going to say? And then he's basically like, I guess I better do something. I'm going to teach you kids how to rock because you guys know how to play music. Because he saw them in music class. And then, so the whole film is basically, him meeting these kids, teaching them how to rock. And then he's like, and then I'm going to enter in Battle of the Bands with them as my band. And then, eventually this whole, he meets all the kids, they bond. And then eventually it all gets revealed that he's a fraud. And then the teachers, the parents all get real mad, and the cops show up, and somehow Jack Black doesn't get arrested. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, so he's not coming back to finish the substitute teaching gig. But these kids are like, well, we want to play Battle of the Bands anyway. So they go and kidnap Jack Black, put him on and then they go to Battle of the Bands. This is after getting into Battle of the Bands by lying about having a rare terminal blood disease. It's not important. And then they play Battle of the Bands, and they don't win. Because the winner of Battle of the Bands is No Vacancy, who is Jack Black's old band that kicked him out. But then he's like, I'm mad about this. But then the kids convince him, it's not about winning. It's about rocking. and meanwhile, all the parents, have been running after their kidnapped children. They go to the show, but then they're like, we're not mad anymore because the kids rocked so hard. And so then, yeah. It's basically that's it. Oh yeah, and then Ned, who is his roommate, is like, I'm gonna go to the show because I want to stick up for myself and also let Dewey mooch off me. And then at the end of the movie, Dewey's like, I'm gonna start an actual school of rock.
So yeah, that's you pretty much fucking nailed the summary there, I think. It's like, in under 5 minutes, it's pretty straightforward, especially the kidnapping and the fact that Jack Black somehow didn't get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the vibe. It's like,
yeah,
it's all about Jack Black just talking about the man and talking about how to rock. No, it's all about the moments,
Exactly. This
the
movie
plot
is
itself is not actually that important.
I mean, yeah, the plot just carries the vibe. But it's a great plot. It's awesome. This movie's awesome. It's a really good film. Let's get into our initial thoughts for real. Let's talk about the actual ones. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so I thought it was great. The one thing that I will say again is about the total illegality of all of it. Definitely when I was a kid, when I was first watching this movie, I didn't realize how fucking weird all this shit was. But definitely I was thinking about that the whole time.
Yeah, well, you have to suspend your disbelief, and that's the thing about it, though. As a kid, it's easy to do that. You don't even think about it, as you say.
Be like, this would be cool if we rocked in school. You know what I mean? That's what you're thinking as a kid.
It's just such a magical concept that it's
yeah,
you don't even think about that as a kid.
Yeah,
and again, as a kid, you're too naive to even think about what the nefarious, why would you do that? There's no reason. You can't think of
yeah.
Why would you do that?
Be scamming.
What's the point of doing what he's doing in a real world scenario?
It's fine. He just needs to make some money, right? He could just scam off his private school.
Oh yeah, no problem. That's fun. That's cool. That's rock and roll.
That's rock and roll. The other thing I would say is that I find it really funny, just the movie definitely has it's got a perspective about what genuine rock is. which I find funny.
Yeah, it definitely does have. Like, I mean, it's more like I wouldn't necessarily say
I don't
it's
think
the
that's a bad
film's
thing,
perspective.
but I'm just saying, like, I think it's funny.
It's Dewey's perspective perpetuated by. It's a very like childish view, but that's kind of the point,
Yeah,
right?
but he's kind of a child.
Exactly. Like his character is very much, yeah, childish. But that's the point. Again, it's hard to like. This is a kids movie, right? Should we? Is that a distinction? Is it a family?
Is
there
it?
a
I don't
distinction?
know. I liked it. When
I love
watched
it.
this time.
I love this movie for.
I
but,
know
like,
plenty of people as adults that like it.
Absolutely, but it's probably safe to say it's made. It's okay. First of all, let's before we even get into that conversation, what would you say? Is there a distinction between a children's movie and a family movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you think there's a distinction? What's an example of like one or the other? Can you think of? Like a family movie is like, like The Sound of Music is a family movie.
Yeah.
Whereas like a children's movie would be. I mean, it's difficult because these days most children's movies are now made to have like some adult
some appeal. Yeah.
humor to them. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to find like exclusively children. But I'd say something like the Angry Birds movie, like
I've
no
not seen
adult
that, so.
is gonna like fucking.
Yeah, I think the thing is like things that are like properly like kids movies are usually probably not that good.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't really have any cinematic. They're mostly
one of the reasons why you would produce a movie that's aimed exclusively at kids is basically just for money.
Yeah, just for money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, and like
yeah, they're often based on like some kind of other property. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Minions, Angry Birds. I think what's the newest? There's what's the popular mobile game now that they're basing a movie off of? There's a new one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're getting off topic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Point being,
we're
talking
kids, nor am one, so I don't know.
Very good point.
Yeah.
The ultimate point here, though, is that this film is definitely appeals to everybody. If you like,
I would say so.
If you like,
I mean, there's some pretty
music.
mature stuff in there,
Absolutely.
I've got a hangover. Who knows what that means?
Doesn't that mean you're drunk?
No. It means I was drunk yesterday.
Yeah, like it's got some stuff in there.
Like
or
no, totally.
like
And we don't use corporal punishment here.
Okay, so just verbal abuse?
God, that movie's so fucking good. Oh
I know
my God,
exactly. There's some
it's an
really
excellent
good
movie.
lines in there. Yeah,
It's an excellent movie. Like this is the role that Jack Black was definitely born to play, in my opinion. Like this is his iconic role.
yeah.
Besides Kung Fu Panda.
Is this before or after he was in Tenacious D?
This is, you mean the band or the movie?
Yeah, the band.
But this is after.
Right.
He's been in Tenacious D for like most of his.
Okay.
Like that's a whole other, yeah. But they were
but
like
also
popular.
a great band.
Great band. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Jack Black is just like he's one of those people that kind of transcend just being an actor. He's a
exactly.
personality.
Yeah.
But he's also a pretty good actor. Like he does some good stuff. King
Yeah.
Kong aside, that movie
No
is
opinion.
rough. That movie, you haven't seen that movie?
No, I've seen it. It's been a long time.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
movie is it's intensely difficult to watch at some points. But yeah. This is kind of him in his perfect element because, as you said, he's the fucking he's the rocker Tenacious
Yeah.
D guy. If anyone
Exactly,
who's
yeah.
familiar with Tenacious D, we'll talk about them a bit. But yeah. What do you think about the music in this movie?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Like No Vacancy with Dewey is excellent.
Yeah, they're
I don't
awesome.
know why they fired him.
Yeah, as soon as they changed their direction, they went for something different. As soon as they brought, I don't know, fucking Spider in, it was
Yeah,
not.
then they brought Spider in. But Fight, that's a great fucking song. It's actually the only song you hear that he plays with them.
Yeah, that's true.
Although I guess they do tell him when they fire him is like, Dewey, you're a great guitarist, but just like
yeah,
the
the solos,
it's
the
about
antics.
it's about the I mean, to be fair, he was He was
Yeah,
a
he
little
was-
over the top.
It was a bit over the top, but it was kind of fun. I mean, like, I feel like that's the kind of thing you should embrace. If you've
Yeah,
got
but
a
it's
guy
like
like that.
if that guy was in your band,
Oh yeah, I understand.
yeah.
Like, I mean, Dewey needed this band. That's the thing. That's the point of this movie is
yeah, exactly.
he was too big for No Vacancy.
Exactly. So he needed some smaller people to help him.
No, he needed
Children.
some. No, he needed some more fucking like pure creative minds.
Exactly.
That were like No Vacancy was fucking like those guys were hacks basically. Anyway, let's get into let's get into some basic facts about this movie, and then we can talk about some more stuff.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, when we talk about the pre-production, we'll kind of get more into this sort of thing. Because it all kind of ties in, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, whatnot. But this film is directed by Richard Linklater, which I forgot. I didn't actually know that until I mean, I did probably know that, but it wasn't
Okay,
in my
wait.
brain
Refresh
until
my memory. Who is Richard Linklater again?
Dazed
I
and
swear
Confused.
Oh yeah. I swear I read his Wikipedia article before doing this episode, and then I was like, oh yeah, that guy, and then I somewhere like then completely forgot who he was.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's the one I remember. There's a couple more that I know as well, but that's the big one that I recall.
Yeah, that's true. Classic.
Yeah, and the interest that movie's very much a vibe as well. So that's I find that
exactly.
interesting. Like both these movies are very vibe heavy.
Mhm.
But I mean before this, like that movie's a little bit more of a cult film than this one. This one's a bit more of a mainstream. Like this is a Scott Rudin produced film.
Yeah, Scott Rudin, who's come up many times on this podcast, aka the largest asshole in Hollywood.
Exactly, Scott, the biggest fucking asshole in Hollywood, Rudin. Who
That's really
recently,
saying something too.
Yeah, I think he even recently kind of got blacklisted. Like he got blacklisted like after we started talking about how he was a bit. Well, I don't know about blacklisted. That might be too strong. I don't pay
Canceled?
attention to.
Did he get canceled?
Yeah, maybe. I just know some shit came out like.
Well, I feel like a lot of that shit was in the air.
Exactly, but we
for a
were
really long
covering
time.
it before it
Yeah.
like hit the mainstream here. We're
So maybe
we're on
we
the
brought him down. I don't know.
exactly
No.
we brought down Scott Rudin. Yeah,
No, that was all in the air.
yeah, exactly. All his shit was out there. It just took
Yeah.
some attention being paid to him. But yeah, so he produced it with his production company, and it was written by Mike White
Yes.
of Amazing Race fame.
Wait, what? Was he in The Amazing Race?
Yeah, he was on The Amazing Race one season with his dad. Him and his
Was
dad
that
were a
after
team.
this film or before?
Oh
or
yeah,
around the same
yeah.
time?
This was
Okay.
like actually not long after. It would have
Yeah, I
been
can't
probably
remember
like
how
late
long
2000s.
The Amazing Race has been around.
It would
I
have
don't
been like
think it's
late
around
2000s.
anymore. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. But
It
yeah,
was
they
an
got pretty
interesting
far.
show, yeah.
They got pretty far in it. Yeah, there's some few choice moments in that show, but anyway,
Yeah.
we could go down a rabbit hole of that. But Mike White was a contestant on it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
He's
But
got
yeah,
the,
Mike
like-
White, who if you weren't paying attention in the film, plays the actual Ned Schneebly.
Yeah, he's Ned Schneebly,
Yeah,
which is that name fits him perfectly. I don't know, but
Exactly.
like look at him, like he is such a character. But yeah, so he wrote the film and then I guess wrote himself into it as that role. And then obviously Jack Black and Joan Cusack,
yeah.
Sarah Silverman. It's such a good cast,
Yeah,
really.
such a
Like
good
all the
cast,
adults
like, yeah.
are really well cast.
Yeah. And I find it interesting that all the kids that were cast, like it seems like they were primarily cast based on their ability to play music.
Precisely, yeah, and we'll get into that a bit more
for
later.
a few exceptions, but
Well, all the ones that played music
yeah.
were cast because of their musical ability over their
Mm-hmm.
acting ability, which is clear at some points. Like Zach is not a great actor.
Yeah, but he's
not.
good enough. He's supposed to be kind of shy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's fine. He does his job, and then he fucking rips the fucking radical solo at the end.
Yeah.
So, it's awesome. It's awesome.
And Lawrence, man.
Oh, Lawrence, Mr.
yeah.
Cool.
On the keys.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, man, like, seriously, this film probably, like, was one of the reasons, like, I started playing music when I was a
Oh,
kid.
definitely.
Like,
Me too,
and I think that was honestly one of the points of this movie. Like, I think I even was watching an interview where they were saying, like, we just we
want
want
to
to
get
inspire.
kids excited about rocking.
Exactly. Just like,
But
imagine
sticking
how
it
many.
to the man.
Like, I honestly wonder how many kids or how many like musicians in our generation would cite this movie as like an influence
yeah.
for them getting into like playing
Well, I know
live
Noah's
music
a huge
in a
fan of
band.
this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Like
he's-
basically
yeah.
everyone I know who
Yeah.
plays music is a huge fan of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it just gets you so excited about the fucking concept of rocking out.
Exactly.
And like it makes you feel like anyone can do it. Like
It's
like
just a bunch of kids. I mean,
with
in the context of the film, technically all these kids already knew how to play their
yeah,
instruments. But
of course.
But
the point is, it's all
that's
the
not
point
the point.
is exactly. Like all you have to do is know what you're doing. But that aside, anyone
Yeah.
can rock.
Anybody can
But that's
rock.
the thing. That's just about the attitude. That's what it gives
And it's
you.
like if you rock, it can make you cool, even if you're not cool.
Yeah, but that's also part of it, though. Is like it's the school of rock, so it's not just about like they did have to learn,
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
It was about learning, in a way. Magic Man, he'd come to town.
Yeah, but it's like no matter who you are, if you learn how to rock, you can get past that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know who else has a weight issue?
Who?
Me. But once I get up on stage, start doing my thing, people worship me because I'm sexy and chubby, man.
Why aren't you on a diet?
Because I like to eat.
God,
Anyway, it's the whole thesis of the film, basically.
it's spectacular.
Yeah.
This thesis of this film is spectacular. It's an excellent film. Top-notch film. We've been doing a real string of excellent movies lately.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, so let's just talk about Jack Black a little bit, I guess. Then we'll get into the production of the movie. So as we mentioned, Tenacious D. Are you familiar with them that much? Do you listen to their music or?
Oh yeah,
what?
man.
What's your?
Sick.
Yeah, it's sick. It's absolutely sick. Have you seen the movie, The Pick of Destiny?
I think I've seen it one time. It was a while ago. I can't remember much about
Yeah,
it. But
it's a bit.
Yeah.
It's a bit juvenile, but
Wow. I mean, what do you expect?
Precisely. It's one of those. things
And
you
also
know what
Kyle
you're getting
Gass
into.
in it is real good. Not just Jack Black.
Yeah, exactly. Like it really, it captures their vibe so perfectly, and that's
Exactly,
2006. So that was 3 years after this film. I don't know if we mentioned School of Rock's 2003.
3. Yeah.
So
But
I think we've mentioned his mum before.
Have
Jack
we?
Black.
Did we? Okay. Oh, I know how we mentioned Jack Black before. Mars Attacks.
Yeah. Right, that's it. Of course.
Yeah, he was briefly in it.
He
And then
he
gets
had
vaporized.
a little. He gets quickly vaporized, and in Mars Attacks. That's right. He was great in that movie.
Yeah.
And
he's like not at all like he is in most of his stuff.
well, that kind of goes to show again because
Yeah.
he does have occasional appearances where he's like,
Not. Well, especially early in his career.
yeah, totally. But yeah, so his mom was a what was she, an engineer? Is that what you'd call it?
Well,
A programmer?
what
I really don't fucking know what you'd classify it. Say that again.
what did she do?
Well, she worked on Apollo, the Apollo
Yeah.
program, and she worked on the Hubble program, and
Yeah.
she I don't like what she did is kind of beyond me. It's above my pay grade. Like,
Okay.
but she worked on specific systems that helped with the Apollo and Hubble program, specifically the code she wrote or some program she wrote. I really don't understand. Again, it's above my pay grade, but helped bring Apollo 13 home.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of cool. I can hear you typing, so you're looking it up right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but let's not get... Oh, and apparently on the Minuteman nuclear missile guidance system as well.
yeah, I didn't want to mention that because that's a little more fucking
Yeah, but...
dicey, but
it
also
also happened.
happened.
Oh,
Less cool.
she has
but-
her own Wikipedia article.
Yeah, she's a real fucking significant figure. But yeah, we won't get bogged down talking about her too much.
Yeah, or just space in general, because I think we have a tendency to do that.
We do have a tendency to do that, yeah.
But yeah, look her up. Judith Love Cohen.
Yeah, Judith Love Cohen, and a couple of one of his brothers is also like a scientist in some regard as well.
Yeah, apparently Neil Siegel.
There you go.
Wait, is his name not actually Jack Black? Oh, he's the half brother of Jack Black. That's why they don't have the same name.
Yeah. Well, his parents divorced when he was like 10 or something like that. But yeah, he acted a bit as a kid. Like I think he was on a few things. Nothing major. But then he got into it more as an adult. He did a bunch of TV roles. He was on the X-Files.
Yeah. By the way, which is a great episode. And you can check it out. The episode is called DPO. And basically, it also has the main guy in it is like Giovanni Ribisi. Do you know Giovanni Ribisi? I'm sure you've seen him.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he gets struck by lightning, and then he gets like the power to like control like electricity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great.
And Jack Black is like his like fucking stoner friend.
That's hilarious. I mean, that's a good duo.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, he's a good character actor for that.
Exactly.
Giovanni Ribisi is a good character actor for that role.
Exactly. But yeah, they're kind of like fucking losers who like spend all their day at the arcade, and then like he gets like this power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good episode.
It's a great episode.
But yeah, so he starts his acting career off. He's doing some roles. He gets some TV, movie roles, as we mentioned. He did a fucking Mars Attacks. I think he really he moved. Well, first he moves in next to Mike White, who we mentioned.
I also want to mention he was in Demolition Man.
Yes, he was in Demolition Man.
He was like in there for like 10 seconds.
Yes, yeah. He's actually appeared in a lot of movies like that. Kind
as
of
like
movies.
really small roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was I think he was
He's
an
got
interesting character. Exactly.
He's got.
And I'm sure he had an audition style too. Like I'm sure he. Like if you see him. Exactly, that's what I mean. Like I feel like these kind of like niche directors were like, we got to get a role, put that guy somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got a vibe.
I mean that might just be me projecting, but
Well, I would cast him.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so he moves in next to Mike White, which I find hilarious, as you say, Mike. Yeah. Black and white.
Yeah.
And the fact that they even worked together at all is just amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like when I was looking at that when I first noticed that, which was obviously pretty quickly, but when you notice that, I feel like I remembered a similar thing where there were people named Black and White who like formed a company together and they called it like Gray. And I'm trying to remember if that was like a real thing or if that was in a movie.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. I mean, if your name was Black and White, and you formed a company called Gray. Who knows?
Yeah,
why
I mean,
do that.
I mean, it makes sense. But anyway, if that's from a movie and you recognize that, let us know.
Or if you know about the actual situation.
Yeah. Like it's just in my brain for some reason. But yeah, so he moved into Mike White, and then he, his career started taking off a little bit. He got that role in High Fidelity, which was kind of his breakout role.
Yeah, definitely.
Which really showcases what he has to offer. He especially, he does that song at the end too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first watched High Fidelity, I was like already familiar with Jack Black, and I was like, oh yeah, Jack Black's in this movie, sick. So then I watched it and I was like, why is Jack Black not in more of this movie?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is he not a bigger part of this movie? And then like when you see it in context of his career, it's really interesting, just because it's like, I think for a lot of people, it was the first time people were like, whoa, who's this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that was a big role for him, and I think he started to do more stuff. Meanwhile, you got Mike White, all right?
Yeah.
He was a TV Ned
Schneebly. Yeah. Schneebly,
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was like a TV writer. He had written for Dawson's Creek, and other stuff. And then he kind of got into like movie writing. He wrote previously he wrote a role for Jack Black, something called Orange County. It was a movie, or I don't think maybe it was the show or OC.
Yeah.
Maybe he wrote for the OC. I'm not 100% sure. Point being, he had Jack Black in mind
Yeah.
in his writing.
Well,
And I
they
don't-
lived next to each other.
Exactly, and they were friends too. So like they hung out and like
Yeah.
because he clearly like when watching interviews with Mike White, he knew Jack Black at that time. Like he
Well,
knew
yeah.
his character.
So I mean, we'll get into this in a bit. But from what I understand, like the entire idea was conceived with Jack Black in mind for this film.
Precisely. Yeah.
There was nobody else was considered.
Exactly. And so I don't really know how Mike White got into like filmmaking, and I don't exactly know how he got like this like role
Opportunity?
because I don't really
Yeah.
talk about it in anything I read or watched. Like
Mhm.
it's just kind of like and then I wrote this script. So he must have had either
An in with Scott Rudin.
an in with some production company or Scott Rudin, like or enough clout from his
Or maybe he
his
just slipped it under
screenwriting.
the door, and Scott Rudin was like,
Yeah,
this is pretty
yeah,
good."
like-
yeah,
Point being is like
Yeah.
there was no question really that he was going to get to make this movie. It
Mhm.
seemed because as you say, the idea just formed. He saw Jack
Yeah.
Black and he was like, it'd be fucking funny.
yeah, exactly.
Fucking Jack Black with a bunch of kids as his backup band.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't even originally they hadn't even figured out like the situation that it would be in, like that he would be a substitute teacher. Like they had to contrive that. Like I
Yeah,
think the initial
precisely. Yeah,
idea
yeah.
was just like, hey, I want to have Jack Black on stage with a bunch of kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, how do we make that happen?
Yeah, exactly. So I was watching this interview with Mike White that I thought he really summed up like kind of exactly like what we were kind of talking about earlier, like how this movie's like it's the role that Jack Black was born to play, and that's not by accident, right? It's
Yeah.
like this movie was written for him, and it was written to like show what he had to offer, like as an
Mhm.
actor and as a person. So it is deeper than just a role that he landed. It's a friend of his able to, and this is a quote from him. He said that nobody had captured what Jack had to offer or quote capitalized on his brand of charm or charisma, which I thought was an interesting quote because it's like yeah exactly, this is exactly what this movie is. This movie
Mhm.
is distilled Jack Black charm and charisma.
Exactly.
And I know we're hammering that point over and over again, but
that's
like
what it is, man.
that's the essence of this movie. It really can't be summed up any better than that, really.
Yeah.
But yeah. So basically, do you want to read this interaction that Jack Black said about?
Yeah, so basically based about when the initial idea was pitched to Jack Black, it's just like Mike White just mentioned him. Basically, he said like, "Hey, I'm thinking about a movie for you where you'd be a substitute teacher and a frustrated rocker, a failed musician kind of searching for your niche in the world of rock, and you end up teaching these kids your magical music."
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, he was super into it.
Yeah, obviously,
'Cause
it's
that-
like,
That's
that's him,
sick.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the idea of like a bunch of kids as his backing musician is hilarious. So apparently Mike White like kind of got the idea from a Canadian project called the Langley School Project
Mhm.
from the 70s. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I have not.
It's this weird thing. It's like this LP from this two LPs I think from 1976 and 77. The 77 one is more popular.
Okay.
But basically what it is this one music teacher in BC, British Columbia, in the 1970s. He kind of organized a bunch of schools together
yeah.
to record in a gymnasium a bunch of like pop songs.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like a school project, but they like turned it into an LP.
Okay.
So it was a bunch of kids with musical background, like playing and singing and doing these whole arrangements.
yeah.
And they covered like a bunch of pop songs from the prior 20 years. Like it was like critically really successful at the time. It wasn't very like commercially successful because it's kind of a weird idea. I mean, it's like the pre, what's it called, Pop Kids or whatever.
Kids Pop, Kids Bop,
Kids Bop, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the proto Kids Bop basically, but I think in a lot of ways, better.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty. Like the arrangements are really good. I mean, the arrangements.
Checked it out. Yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah, you should check it out. But it got rediscovered in 2001, just before this film was made, and it got kind of re-released by Bar None Records, and became sort of a cult hit. So people like, famous people started talking about it. Obviously, Mike White heard it. Neil Gaiman, there was a quote from him about it. He said it was haunting. There was a cover of Space Oddity that David Bowie said. This is a quote from David Bowie. He said it was a piece of art that I couldn't have conceived of. And he described the vocals as earnest if lugubrious. And the backing arrangement...
What does lugubrious even mean?
Let's get the exact definition of lugubrious here, because that's a great word. And I want the...
Exaggerated or affectedly mournful.
Great word. Mournful, dismal, or gloomy, especially to an exaggerated or ludicrous degree. So yeah, and David Bowie described the backing arrangement as astounding. So clearly quite well done. But yeah, White heard it and was like, this is, that combined with Jack, he's like, this could be a thing. This could be a thing. So he wrote a script, and obviously, as we mentioned, Scott Rudin's involved somehow. It's going to be a movie. But so he shows the script to Jack Black to look over and give him his notes.
Yeah.
And apparently Jack Black was 100% focused on the rock and roll references and well, maybe you should reference this here, or I don't know about this one here, just stuff like that.
It's got to be authentic, man.
Exactly, which I thought was funny,
cool,
but yeah,
I wonder
obviously
if he picked the videos that they show where they show Hendrix and shit,
I bet he did. I bet he did.
Yeah.
I think he was really involved in a lot of that sort of thing. But yeah, so then Richard Linklater gets involved. Jack Black talked about him a lot, saying he really liked Dazed and Confused, which makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he thought he was really good at capturing a vibe, which we were talking about. Jack Black mentioned that same kind of idea. And he was also talking about how he kind of thought he got the vibe that for Richard Linklater, this film was kind of a chance for him to prove that he could make a big budget film. Just look, I can do it. It's no problem. Easy peasy. I can do these kind of, lower budget films, artistic films, but then I can also handle this as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. That was just, Jack Black's interpretation of it. It seems the plan from the start was for the kids to play the instruments. Because I was because as we mentioned, that was important, right?
Yeah. So I was actually trying to figure out, were they actually playing the instruments on set? And I think it varies depending on the scene, but their fingers are definitely matching up with what they're playing.
Yeah.
They
paid a lot of attention to the music's super important.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why, this movie inspires you as a musician, and going back, it's just still good because it all holds up. But yeah, they actually play the instruments and they play it on set. So obviously then the top priority is casting the musicians.
Yeah, and so it seems like they were primarily cast for their musical ability rather than their acting ability, although there are I don't think any of the performances are particularly bad.
No. Yeah. Again, Zach is the worst for sure, but but
also
as you mentioned, it kind of plays to his character.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of evens out.
Yeah.
According to Richard Linklater, they started with a pool of 10,000 applicants, which is insane to think of.
That might be an exaggeration, but who knows?
Yeah, it might be. He said he saw hundreds of them audition. There's an interview with the character who played Freddy. It's interesting because he's
by the way, Freddy.
The actor?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very sad.
That is very
A couple
sad.
years ago, actually, he got hit by a car while riding a bike.
That's extremely sad.
Yeah, it's
Holy
extremely
smokes.
sad. Yeah,
Rest in peace. Wow.
yeah,
He had been drumming. He was obviously a good drummer. Fucking, he'd been doing it for years. I don't know how he got the audition, but Zach, the actor, was saying he got the. I'm just calling them by their characters' names, by the
Yeah.
way, just to avoid confusion here, because frankly, it doesn't really matter.
yeah. Although I noticed you actually named Miranda Cosgrove here as opposed to the kid.
Well, she's the exception,
Yeah. Okay.
because she was named to Forbes top 30 under 30 in like
Oh yeah.
whenever, what year? I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that is.
I think is she still under 30?
I don't know. Maybe.
don't know.
Probably not. Who knows? She was in iCarly.
Yeah.
And then, popped off from there.
28.
She's only 28. There you go.
She's
She's
still
a real
28,
career. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was Summer. If she was
Yeah.
Summer, she was also in a lot of other stuff. And you could tell she's exactly like that at the time. Like interviews with the kid,
Yeah.
her as a kid
Yeah.
are just basically it's exactly like that,
and so
Exactly.
also she doesn't play any music in the movie
Yeah, exactly.
except for
So-
that one bit where she sings.
Oh yeah, but that's like right. Band manager.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, then there was that bit about the groupies that was really weird.
Oh yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I feel like I kind of. What was that exactly? Yeah. I feel
Well,
like I
he
blocked
was
that
like,
out.
"Oh, you three, you're the groupies. You're a really important part."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that was also pretty adult.
Yeah, I mean the way. I feel like I don't remember. Was it phrased delicately or was it creepy?
What do you mean? I don't know.
Did it
Like, I
how did
don't
it come
exactly know how
across?
you would describe that, but basically later Summer's like, I researched groupies on the internet. And
Right,
basically,
that's
like-
right. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot about that. So it is kind of it works as like a plot point. It's not just.
But
Right.
then he, like, the other two that he said were going to be groupies continue to do that, I guess.
Yeah, but they take on more of like they make merch
Yeah, exactly.
and like do
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and yeah, they take on
Yeah.
that sort of role. But yeah, it is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so then you have Zach's actor. He got the audition. He said through a music camp. So
Mhm.
then the guy who is the music director. We'll talk a lot more about music next week.
Mhm.
Because obviously it's super important and it's part of the production. But the guy who was doing the music direction was saying that the guy who played Zach, they didn't say his name, I think, because he was a kid at the time in his interview. But they were saying his dad was like a working musician.
Oh, yeah?
So he had a lot of experience, and he had a lot of experience playing like the type of music that they played in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
type of like what did he call it? He called it like Chicago blues style guitar
Okay, yeah.
playing. He said so he already had a bunch of experience like in that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So clearly he was, I think, the front runner from the start because he
Yeah.
was very, very good at it.
Yeah.
Apparently Lawrence was a classical musician.
Yeah, it
Um,
shows.
Yeah, well, the interview with him was hilarious. He said, "Oh, it was fun to learn rock music." He sounded
Yeah.
exactly
I thought
like
that
Lawrence.
there was that one scene in the movie where he gives him, like, the Yes CD.
Oh yeah,
And he's like, listen to that keyboard solo on Roundabout, it'll blow that classical music out of the water or something like that. And I was like, funny because, like, clearly Yes is very influenced by classical
very.
music.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, yeah, they couldn't get into that. It's too elevated for like. I think they did a good job of not getting musical snobbery into it.
There was a really weird joke in the movie that's not necessarily about musical snobbery, but, like, there was the joke about Picasso's guitars.
Oh, that was yeah. You made an excellent point to me about that. You got to bring that up.
Yeah, so I'm bringing that up. I'll bring that up right now. Basically, it's like, so this is kind of like, I think this joke works on a lot of different levels. So it's like, I mean, I don't know I mean,
Was
I
it
think a lot
intentional?
of people do know about Picasso. I think it was probably intentional because, I think, like, a lot of people who, like, really know Picasso probably know about his guitars, right?
Yeah. Right,
Which is an
yeah.
actual thing that he did, was to make these art pieces, like, of guitars, right? And,
Yeah.
so it's like, would you ask Picasso to sell one of his guitars? And presumably he sold quite a few of them.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of levels to this joke.
Yeah, so it's like,
Maybe you should sell one of your guitars or something.
What? Would you tell Picasso to sell his guitars?
and it's like, yeah, so presumably, yes, Picasso would be selling his guitars. But also, if you didn't know that, you might just think, oh, obviously Picasso's an artist. He didn't play guitar.
I think the point is that it makes sense, but also I don't think Dewey's supposed to know that.
I don't think Dewey knows that is the point. Is that Picasso did make or
Paint
make
guitars.
Who knows? Yeah. Who
It's-
knows what it's supposed to be? But
Regardless,
I thought
it's
it was a
great
joke that required like a little bit of like thinking.
That is a great joke. Yeah. But yeah. So basically, everybody loved working with Jack Black, specifically like the kids, because obviously they had to work with him a lot. I think he knew how to work with them. He said he acted just like a kid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The more perceptive of the kids, meaning Miranda Cosgrove,
Yeah.
knew that Jack had done. She called them adult movies, and she was like, "So I know he's like done adult movies with like swearing and stuff." So she knew he was like holding back,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically we'll get into all this more next week because that's more production stuff. Like this was just pre-production, like getting the everyone together. Obviously prior to filming, they did an obscene amount of rehearsing
Yeah, definitely.
because they basically put a band of children together, and now they need to make it act like they need to make them play.
Yeah. So
And
do
they
you know
did.
if they recorded like the songs for the movie before before they did the filming or after?
Yeah, before.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was before
Yeah.
because they would need to play them to track to the
Okay.
film.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, next week. But yeah, so that's kind of the pre-production. But we can move on from here on to our next segment, which is a little bit about how they shot it.
All right, let's talk about how they shot it.
How?
All right, Keaton. First off, do you think this was film or digital?
Ooh, right on the cusp here. This is when it's the hardest to tell, right? So I'm gonna say film.
And you'd be exactly right.
Yeah, right. A little too early, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, once again, for those of you who are not familiar, basically the first movie that like was all digital was Attack of the Clones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That was
any movie before 2002. Any movie before 2002 is almost definitely on film.
Right. And this is 2003, so it's right on the cusp. But
it kind of is, but it was like probably not that popular to do stuff on digital.
yeah, exactly.
Whereas
like
I would say that any movie after 2010, generally you can kind of assume was probably shot on digital. Although you can never be, you're not necessarily sure.
yeah, exactly. That's when it gets really hard to tell because some people choose to do it for strange reasons.
Yeah.
And not to do it for other reasons.
Exactly. So yeah, you never know why somebody does something some way or the other. But what was I going to say? So the director of photography was Rogier Stoffers.
I don't know who that is.
Well,
what else has he done?
Not a lot that you would know.
It makes sense that I don't know him then.
And
he's done Quills, John Q, Disturbia. Interesting. He's done a lot of television. Or not a lot of television, no. Yeah, very little I've heard of.
Exactly.
Where'd they get this guy?
I don't know. But that's not who I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
The first AC was Edwin Ephraim, listed here as first assistant photographer, which is an odd odd way of phrasing it, but I guess that's also a way to say it. But
Okay.
But what I want to talk about is the intro to the movie.
Okay, yeah.
And
you wanted to
how
mention it.
this is a sneakily, like, highbrow intro.
Yeah, okay. All right.
The intro to this movie is basically Birdman.
No, you're right. The
There's like a
the
whole,
long.
I checked. It was like a minute and 10 seconds before there's a single cut.
Yeah, the super long intro.
If you include the if you include the beginning where they have the DreamWorks, is it DreamWorks logo?
I
can't remember, but the intro, where they have the logo of the production. Paramount, the Paramount logo. If you include that, because it does a fade, it's not quite a cut. That's a minute and 30 seconds before there's a visible cut.
That's awesome, and so
they do the
is...
credits. Like, they do the credits by having, like, if you've probably seen the intro, but like,
yeah,
all the names are actual, like, pieces on set.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
It's
like
so
the
cool.
the intro is this is where a real great piece of trivia from this movie comes from.
Oh yeah. Go for it.
Is that so this film is called, as you'll see in all the documentation, film is called School of Rock.
Yes.
However, in the opening sequence, you will see that the title of the film, it is called The School of Rock.
Yes.
The reason for this is because they had ordered the neon sign.
Yes.
Based off of a working title.
Exactly. And you
And
can't
later...
just go back and reshoot that scene. Because
Exactly.
that was actually a really complicated scene.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like,
so...
first of all, you'd have to get a new neon sign, which I assume is not cheap.
And then, yeah.
And then you'd have to reshoot that entire scene, which includes a ton of extras, actually, because they go right into the... Like anybody who's seen Goodfellas, they know the intro.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the intro to that movie, but the scene with the Copacabana.
Yeah.
It's basically that. It's like they
Basically,
go through the stuff into the club, and then they go into the room where everybody is without any cuts, right?
Yeah, it's an excellent scene. Such a good scene.
And but let me tell you about who did that.
Okay.
So to get that shot done, they brought in absolute Steadicam legend Jim McConkey.
Okay, who's that?
So Jim McConkey and his brother, actually, are both legends of Steadicam. Larry McConkey, who is Jim's brother, actually shot the Goodfellas scene. And
that's amazing.
So, Jim has worked with directors like Kubrick, and also he worked on Life Aquatic with Wes Anderson.
Oh my god.
He did, just the Steadicam work on that movie.
Yeah. Holy smokes. So they really fucking pulled out all the stops for this intro. No wonder.
Yeah,
it's
so
sick.
Jim McConkey and Jim and Larry now, they've done a lot of work more recently on The Marvelous Miss Maisel, which has excellent Steadicam work in it.
I've seen a bit of that show. I've not seen like full episodes, but I've seen a few clips from it.
Yeah, there's some excellent Steadicam stuff in that. But yeah, so Jim and Larry are absolute like fucking legends of the industry.
Wow, so they got some true legends to come in. That's
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's how you make a good fucking film, you know?
Exactly.
Get true legends to come in and do their work.
Yeah, and I like it. It reminded me so much of that Goodfellas scene, and it's interesting that his brother actually shot the Goodfellas scene.
So, were you like, that looks a lot like the Goodfellas scene? Then you looked it up, and you're like, fucking.
It's Jim. Yeah, it's Jim, Larry's brother. He shot that scene. Yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah,
I love it. So, is there anything else for how they shot it?
No, that's basically it. I just wanted to talk about that intro.
That is
and there's some other good Steadicam work in the movie. Aside from that intro, that's just the most obvious.
There's a lot of real good, like, basically concert footage.
Yeah, that too. But also, just like, there's a lot of stuff just in the classroom than like is Steadicam stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again and pay more attention to the camera work. It wasn't like, there's so much other stuff in this film that
there's so
it
much
kind of
stuff
falls
on
to
screen,
the
you don't
wayside.
really pay attention to the camera work. But I like how in this movie it was done like subtly, but also really like sneakily like really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of what elevates this film as well, is stuff like that.
Yeah, and yeah, that intro just like it's up there, man. It's really good.
Yeah, and is the first cut when he does the jump?
No, it's before that.
Before that, okay.
So it's while he's on stage. They just cut to a different angle. I don't know why they did
Right.
but they did.
There's just time, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah,
All right.
sick. So yeah, they're actually playing the song like while he's doing the intro.
Oh, so
And
that was like a live performance?
Well, yeah, because like he comes in while they're doing while they're playing.
Right. Well,
And
I mean, they could have sound edited that.
Well, presumably it was cut to the track. Like they probably he had presumably they were listening to it on set, so he knew when his cues were, right?
Right. I see what you're saying.
But that's how they shot it. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Film and Jim.
Yeah,
McConkey.
Film and Jim.
Yeah.
Film and Steadicam magic legend.
Exactly.
So that's how they shot it. We've got one more section for you before we close her off for next week.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
The longtime listeners will know exactly what we're talking about.
We're talking about All right, we're talking about 60 Degrees of Star Trek right here. You know the drill.
Fuck
It's
yeah.
all about finding connections between this film and Star Trek. You know.
Was Mike White an alien?
No. Not that I could figure out.
He looks like one, so you never know.
But Keaton, did you notice any right off the bat watching this movie? Direct connections.
I mean, a couple, yeah, I think so.
A couple, more than one, really?
Or, well, one specifically, but...
Okay, well, we'll talk about that later.
Later, okay.
Well, we'll leave that one for the last.
Okay.
But just so you know, anybody who's really familiar with Star Trek, they might have noticed one.
Okay.
Which I will get to. But let's start with a two-step here.
Okay.
And that would be with Jack Black.
Okay.
So, Jack Black was in the 2011 Muppets movie
Okay.
with Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah, okay. Anyone who knows, Whoopi Goldberg fucking... T-Got.
Guinan
Whoopi...
on TNG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or EGOT. I don't know why I said T-Got.
She is EGOT, yeah. EGOT.
EGOT, yeah.
Does she have two Tonys? Is that why it's T-Got?
It might be, yeah.
No, I don't know.
But that would make it a T-Got.
So
for sure.
that's a connection right there. Two-step. Easy.
Sick.
Okay, another two-step. Let's go through Joan Cusack.
Okay.
All right. This is a movie that keeps coming up. Chicken
What is
Little.
that?
2005
fucking love
animated
that movie. Fucking love that movie.
So
Zach
Joan
Braff.
Cusack was in that movie, obviously, and so was Patrick Stewart, obviously.
What a
who
good
is
movie that is.
Captain Picard on TNG, as we all know. Okay, now let's get to the direct connection because this is you should just know this, and it's Sarah Silverman.
Fuck yeah, baby. She's
Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
2 episodes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's the one where they all go back in time.
Future's End, I believe it's called.
Yes, Future's End. I believe part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Tom Paris going back in time, hanging out with Sarah Silverman.
God, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and then she's also in this. And that was the one direct connection that I thought of. Did you see one that I didn't met?
No, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I thought there might have been more. So.
I could not find any
But yeah.
direct ones. But yeah,
That's a great one. I mean, anything to Voyager's a top notch one.
exactly.
And I think she
also
was
because
even
it's
considered...
somebody who you don't think might necessarily be in Star Trek.
Yeah, you really don't expect her to make a Star Trek appearance. Like,
But
really
she does.
surprised. Yeah, she does. And apparently they even considered her for a regular role
Really? Well, if they would have brought her back to the future.
I don't know if it was I don't know if it was as that like that character or if this was like after or before like
right. I should look into that.
I was just reading that
Yeah.
they considered her for a regular role.
Yeah.
Which would have been hilarious, but
Yeah.
could have elevated it. Maybe she didn't want to.
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah. All right. Is that so? Those are our.
That's
those
the
all
three connections.
Yeah.
I could go
That's
for more, but I don't want to take all your time here.
Yeah, and I mean this movie's in that era where there are probably so many, and it's like a big film that there's probably like a ton of connections.
I think the 90s is the best era for Star Trek connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of like
the number of different Star Treks that were around.
Well, yeah, of course,
and, like,
of course.
just the people who were on it tended to do other things, right? Because it's
right.
like, I feel like if you were like a big actor in the 90s, like, you might have been on Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. You might
Like,
have
I'm
made an
thinking
appearance.
like, or not necessarily a big actor, but like, an
Big
actor
enough.
who's around. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Someone
thinking,
who's
like,
a working actor, the salt of the earth.
like Jason Alexander on Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, and also, speaking of which, Sarah Silverman was also on Seinfeld, so,
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Small
Crossover
world.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, okay, there you go. That's, I guess that's our first episode on the School of Rock.
School of Rock. No, it's School of Rock.
Yeah, on School of Rock, my mistake.
Yeah, but, classic movie. Check it out. I don't think
really
we're
good
really
movie.
ruining anything for you. I don't think there's any, like, twists or anything. Like,
No,
even if you know the
it's-
plot of this movie, just watch the movie anyway. It'll be funny.
Yeah, exactly. This movie just kind of is one of those films that is what it is. You could know everything that happens, and it still is good. The rewatchability on this film is
It's excellent.
enormous. Enormous. And excellent music. We'll talk about the music so much more next week. We'll talk about like how they recorded it and more details about the musicians and the production and all that jazz and all the fun stuff. Yeah. But yeah, let me see. Maybe I can find out if we have any shout-outs. That's
I got
could
it.
do.
No, we don't.
Oh,
No. All right. We'll
Oh, there
see
you go.
y'all next week.
Peace be with you. Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
Baby, we was making straight A's, but we were stuck in a dumb daze. Don't take much to memorize your life. I feel like I've been hypnotized. And then that magic man, he come to town. Woo-wee, he done spun my head around. He said recess is in session, 2 and 2 make 5. And now, baby, oh, I'm alive. Oh yeah, I'm alive. And if you run up to the teacher's man, well, baby, you just have to get it. Rock got no reason, rock got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time. Ah, yeah! And then that magic man said to obey. Do what magic man do. Now what magic man say? Now can I please have the attention of the class? Today's assignment. And if you want